Hello everyone, happy Halloween. In today's video we'll be looking at Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, a weird, sad, creepy psychological horror movie. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane was directed by Robert Aldrich. He also produced the movie. Robert Aldrich directed movies like Kiss Me Deadly, Autumn Leaves, and we're going to direct movies like The Dirty Dozen, The Flight of the Phoenix, and The Longest Yard. The screenplay is written by Lucas Heller. It was based on a novel, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, by Henry Farrell. The movie stars Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. The plot to Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is about Jane Hudson, who was a former child star, takes care of her sister Blanche, who is in a wheelchair, paralyzed, who is also a former star actress. They live in an old Hollywood mansion. Blanche wants to get even with Jane from the car crash that left her paralyzed a few years prior. Jane is desperate, keeps Blanche in prison. Blanche has a new rise to fame. She tried to keep Blanche away from doctors, visitors, and the neighbors so she could get rid of her sister. The movie was released on October 31st, 1962 on Halloween, 60 years ago to this day. The movie made $9 million at the box office. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, winning Best Costume Design in black and white. Prior to this review, this was the first time I've ever seen this movie this year, was familiar, knew of this movie in the past, but not got around to seeing it until recently, this past year. I went into blind and not knowing what I was going to expect or get out of this movie. This movie is 60 years old, and I figured, what the heck? Let's watch the movie that I'd never seen before, expand my horizons. And one way of celebrating the movie is by watching and reviewing it. This movie is very sad, depressing, creepy, disturbing. It's very psychological. It's a great movie. But boy, was it hard to sit through. This movie in a way has like Sunset Boulevard similarity vibes, but different. It also has some psycho feel to it to some certain degrees. You have two sisters who are both famous stars. One started out famous earlier as a child actress, and the other one became famous later as an adult actress, but had a car accident that made her paralyzed and shortened her career. Years later, we see how Jane is taking care of her older sister Blanche, who is disabled. We see how they both have an estranged relationship from each other because of jealousy. Jane has an unhealthy obsession of her past and feels she's still a child at heart because she never really fully grew up and did not break her typecast as a child vaudeville actress. Bette Davis does a great job as Jane. She's psychotic, vulnerable, emotional, mentally ill, disturbing, psychologically damaged, cruel, mean, and she's an alcoholic. Jane's an example of why being a child star is not good, of growing up too fast is a bad thing. That from an early age, being a child actress and trying to break her typecast, from an early age, she had no talent. Jane is jealous of how her older sister Blanche made it as a big movie star, despite it not last that long. She still gets fan letters, praise, and still has a big fan following. Blanche, despite her complicated relationship with her sister, she still loves her, but it's not easy, and it's hard to still love her because of her jealousy to her famous success she had before the accident. I liked Elvira the maid. She was nice, caring, loyal to helping taking care of Blanche, did a great job. She was also very concerned for Blanche because she knew how her younger sister Jane treated her. When Blanche is trapped and Jane treats her like a prisoner, we thought their neighbors, the Bates, were going to be the heroes where they saved Blanche's life, but that's not the case in this movie. The Bates family wanted to meet Blanche because they are fans, but they never came close to meeting her because Jane forbids, because she is jealous, mad, angry. They wanted to meet Blanche and not her. We root for Blanche throughout this entire movie to get help and try to get out from her crazy psychotic sister. Pre-Misery is similar how Paul Sheldon trying to get away and escape Annie Wilkes' house when you think about it. This movie is another example of one location being enough. The less resources, the better the movie. The set designs are great. Can't get enough of the dark Gothic mansion and little German expression right there in a way. The darkness adds the sadness to the story, showing how Jane lives in a sad world. The shots of Jane and Blanche by the window or shadows are a metaphor for both feeling like prisoners because of Blanche's condition. She can't go out that much. And Jane feels like a prisoner taking care of Blanche all the time, has no life and friends. It's crazy to say that despite this is a crazy psychological horror movie, it has modes of witty dialogue and dark humor at times. Last year when I did my Sunset Boulevard movie review, I mentioned how that movie is relevant in today's modern world, how it holds up with all the recent Hollywood scandals we've had the last few years, from Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and Woody Allen's case being reopened and reinvestigated. This movie in a way is very relevant to today's modern-day world, society of Hollywood child stars who've had a hard time breaking their typecast, like, for example, Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone, any former Disney or Nickelodeon stars like Lindsay Lohan or Amanda Bynes, Dana Plato, Gary Coleman from Different Strokes, Edward Furlong, who played John Connor in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and Corey Feldman from Goonies, The Lost Boys. What they all have in common, they went from childhood stardom to going downhill, going the wrong direction of doing drugs or committing crimes, and cannot break their typecast. They didn't make it as adult movie stars. Unless you're lucky like Drew Barrymore and Robert Downey Jr., they were drug addicts, got sober, and turned their lives around, made comebacks. I'll admit, I've only seen a few movies of Joan Crawford and Bette Davis movies, but I have heard the story and their history rivalry, and that in real life they hated each other in this movie. They are not acting, they are really at each other's guts throughout this entire movie. This is another example where the actors were playing themselves in fictional ways. What's interesting to read that despite their crazy rivalry, it was interesting to read that Bette Davis asked Joan Crawford to do this movie. Because around this time period, both actresses were desperate for comebacks and were not doing well around that time period. Bette Davis had two accommodations for making this movie: that she played Jane and made sure Robert Aldrin did not sleep with Joan Crawford. That way she did not have a lot of screen time and steal camera shots. Spoiler alert, if you have not seen this movie, stop the video right here. Spoiler alert, if you have not seen the movie, stop the video right here. The ending of this movie shocked when you find out Jane was not responsible for Blanche's accident. Blanche wanted to kill her because of how mad she was insulting, making fun of her at a party. Jane says, "And all this time we could have been friends." I was like, wow. That line made me sad because all this time they had so much hate for each other, and Blanche finally reveals the truth and was making her feel guilty for the accident. It's like Jane can finally stop feeling guilty for nothing for Blanche's accident. It's one of those twist endings we did not see coming. Then again, I don't think no one saw this twist coming when they first saw it back in 1962, or not even today's movie-goers would see this coming. There's a docu-TV show called Feud, with Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange both playing Joan Crawford and Bette Davis, about the making of this movie, which I have not seen. I recently learned about it when I was doing my research on this movie. Well, that wraps up today's video. Have a happy and safe Halloween, and see you next year for more horror movie review franchise reviews.